Hello, and welcome back to Minecraft. It has been a little bit since our last episode. We had a bunch of holidays come up, and it's the start of a brand new year, and I wanted to get started back in our world with a bang. In the last episode, we made friends with these wonderful little guys. We got ourselves two little nautiluses that we can now use to terraform underwater and to make a lot easier progress out here. We also did a bunch of underground mining in the last episode, and we got tons of new resources that we were running low on. And now, in this episode, I would like to get back to working on our little village over here. I think the thing we're going to work on today is this area right over here. As you can see, I've started a little bit of work on it by placing some torches where I think we're going to need some light sources. Eventually, I'll hide these underground, but I'm not sure where the layout of everything is going to be, so I haven't done that yet. Over here, we're going to be placing our farmer, and we're going to be adding a field and some crops over here. And I think we also might be pushing this terraforming back a little bit more so that we have a little bit more room for our actual farmer house, and so that they have a little bit more area to roam around in to work with whatever crops we decide to plant here. The other thing that I want to work on this episode is making some progress towards making everything look connected. So, when we first made the Fletcher's area over here, I spent a lot of time in this area kind of adding little tiny things around the area so that everything looked cohesive. And I figured we need to kind of extend this a little bit further. And we did make some progress on it over here with this build, but it's been difficult here up at the top of this hill because I wasn't sure what exactly was going to be near these buildings, and so I didn't want to place anything in the off chance that I might want to move it later. And so up here, it's kind of looking a little bit sparse and a little bit boring, and I'm kind of sick of looking at it like that. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to work on this house over here. We're going to get this all started up. Apparently, we're going to get another cat spawning, but we're going to get this all started up. And then my plan is to kind of work on these little gaps and areas that are around here, like these, and try to properly fill them in so that this area is starting to actually look like one build instead of a bunch of small builds that have nothing to do with each other. And of course, I figured the farmers were a good place to start with this episode because I'm actually almost out of food. This is everything I have left that isn't just bread. So I have a very limited amount of time before I run out of something that's going to give me decent saturation. And so as soon as we can get these farmers up and running so I can start finally using golden carrots, the better. Now, usually when I start building everything, I usually show you guys all of my thoughts and my processes with everything that I'm doing when I'm making these. But you guys have seen that plenty of times if you've been following my series. And so I think we're going to do things a little bit differently today. I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to build this farmhouse, and I'm going to get started on this little area. And then we'll come back in and we'll focus on the surrounding areas a little bit more and my thought process on how to get those like looking more cohesive and kind of joined together with the rest of the builds in the area. So let me go ahead and get started on this, and I'll bring you guys back in as soon as I have it done. We've got the start of a house for our farmers now, and I decided to go with a yellow roof for this one. I went with a tiny little house with a greenhouse on the side so that they have some indoor growing area. And I think I'm going to be doing some adjustments to the terrain as well so that we can add some more farming areas on the outside. But I'll start off with showing you the outside. Like I said, I have this little greenhouse addition that comes off of the side of the build, and we've got some like area for flowers on the side. Got quite a simple back to the building and a simple side as well. For the roof, I went ahead and used some pretty basic standard ones, except for maybe the gold blocks. I decided to go expensive with that and use the gold blocks for the final highlight on the roof. Quite happy with the way that that came out. And I decided to use brown as an accent color because I like the way that yellow and brown look together. Quite happy with the way that it came out. The start of our house kind of starts with this little tiny porch area. We've got a little tiny seat for our farmers to sit on, to look out and enjoy the rest of the town from, and probably some of their crops as we place them out here. Then on the inside, we've got this little tiny living area for them. We've got another seat here, a place for them to sit and enjoy a meal together. Maybe it could be romantic. We've got a little candle here for them. We've got some shelving over here and a little plant. And over here is their greenhouse so that they can be growing some flowers and some glowberries. We've got their composters in here behind all of these trapdoors and everything, so they look a little bit nicer. Over here, we have their bedroom, and it's just a simple little area, nothing too crazy in here. But we do have this ladder, and this ladder leads up to an area that they can't reach, but is specifically for us. And I've decided this is where I'm going to be having my chest monster while I work on the rest of the village. This is not fully organized yet. It's slightly organized, but it's kind of a chaos mess in here right now. I'll need to do something probably in between episodes just to get this sorted. There's a lot of stuff that I need to bring back to my home base that isn't needed over here and is just clogging up chests. This side is pretty much empty. I probably won't need these. I do tend to keep things slightly clear, but we'll see how that goes by the end of this project. The original chest monster was just over here by the water, by the bridge that led over to here. And I figure if I'm going to be working in this area and trying to get this looking nice today, that needed to go. So upstairs of this building is where we're going to keep it for now, to keep it out of the way so it's not such a nuisance and such an eyesore. With the house finally built, the next thing I'm going to start working on is the terrain. I did already start to kind of pull the terrain in here, and I might do some additional adjustments there as well. I'm not entirely sure yet. But the one thing that I do know for sure I need to adjust is over here, because I'm thinking that I want their crop field to be on this side. And this right here surely isn't enough space for a bunch of crops. I mean, they come out of the door right here and there's barely any room. So I'm thinking I want to extend this stone wall out a bit and kind of extend their area here. I want them to have a lot of room to kind of roam within their fields. As you guys can kind of tell with the amount of beds that I have in here, there's only going to be 2 villagers in here. I don't think I need a crazy amount of villagers to get golden carrots, so we're just going to stick with 2 of them. But I do want to make it look like they have a decent field out here, and I think the best way to do that is definitely to extend this wall. When I made the original plans and I put this in place, I didn't really know exactly how or what was going where or anything like that in my little village here. So I think it's fine if things change as I need them and as I go along. Now, down here, the original plan was to go ahead and add a garden or a park or trees down here. And I'm still going to be able to do that because there's still going to be room between there and here. And I'm also going to be using this side as well to do that. So some of that park and garden area is going to extend across the path over to here now instead of leaving this area blank. First things first, I'm going to get started kind of mapping out where I might want this new wall to go. I think this is about how far I want to extend this out. So quite a ways here. We're going to have a lot of extra room to plant here. We've got this area, and this will probably remain empty. I'll probably make sure I put a bunch of extra torches in here so nothing can spawn underneath. But we're going to definitely clear this wall up, fill it out, get everything ready to be planted on, I think. This is definitely looking like a more appropriate amount of space to go ahead and put their crops down on. And I think some of them might extend a little bit that way and a little bit that way. So it won't just be this section here. It'll kind of branch out a little bit, I think. And down here, it's still looking quite a bit plain because I haven't taken the time to texturize this or do anything like that just yet. This wall is going to kind of follow the same thing we did over there, but it is going to be a bit different. So over here, this is kind of a cliff that kind of goes from down here and juts up and out. And we're going to be doing something a little bit different over there because that's more of a just kind of goes straight up type of wall. But we're going to follow this same kind of color scheme with the stone, where we've got tuff at the bottom and we've got mossy stone and cobble as well. So we're going to follow that type of theme, but we're going to do it a little bit differently over here because this isn't necessarily a cliff face. This is more of like a retention wall. And so this is probably going to raise up a little bit instead of having the grass pour over it like it does over there. Let me go ahead and see what I can get done with this wall so I can show you guys exactly what I mean. It's not 100% done, but hopefully this gives you guys a better idea of what it's going to look like by the time that we're finished with everything today. This is not going to be so stark near the bottom here because eventually we're going to have some stuff that kind of comes up in the front as we build our little park area. But I think this is starting to look good and it's starting to have a lot more shape and flow with it as well. It definitely looks more like a wall and rather than a cliff like over there, just like I mentioned. And from up top, it's got some definition as well. I didn't go too crazy up here because we are going to be adding in a fence and decorations up here, as well as all of our crops. So some of this is going to get hidden from the top side. I think the next step is going to be to go ahead and set up the boundaries that our villagers will be able to travel around in. Currently, we do have this set up in the front, so they will be trapped in through the front gate like this, but they can still leave from over here through the greenhouse, and that's because I want them to be able to get into the fields over here. So now I need to decide how far out they can leave the building and maybe change anything off to the side of the building or anything that I might need to make sure that they can't get out and then get themselves hurt. I think this looks like a pretty good space for these villagers. I'm quite happy with how far we pushed this out. This is definitely going to give us more room for the crops to make this area definitely look more like a farm. Everything back here is closed in. There are no gates back here. I don't want to be entering this way. I'm going to just enter through the front here. And I went ahead and added some precautions so they can't, jump up here and escape this way. And as well, I've added some posts. These might be for lights or something. I might move them. I'm not entirely sure yet. I kind of want to get everything in place before I decide. But this is a really good start. This gives me a lot to work with and a lot to plan for. I think from here, I'm going to probably plan some sort of a pathway in here just so that they have like a little area that they can kind of walk around in. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start placing crops. I think I'm going to do wheat in here with them. I might split it up or it might just all be wheat. I'm not entirely sure yet, but the plan currently is probably wheat. And then I might put some things like hay bales and stuff like that, just to kind of match up with the golden theme of their roof. There's been a bit of progress since the last clip that I recorded, and there's also been a significant amount of time. So after the last clip that I recorded, I ended up getting incredibly sick, and I've been sick for about half a month now, and that's why I've had no video for a few weeks. I managed to get a little bit of work done here in the world. I got some crops laid out and I started decorating and working on stuff like that. I also started trading with the villagers and getting some golden carrots built up so that when we run out of food, which we're going to be doing soon, we will have some golden carrots to switch over to. Let me show you what I've gotten done in that little bit of time that I was missing. So I've gotten this field here laid out with all of the wheat, and I got some extra paths in here for the villagers to walk around in. Looks like they do most of their farming right around here, which is totally fine. It's okay if this crop field isn't perfectly laid out all of the time. This is for them to kind of do what they want to do in. Back over here behind the house, I've got some beetroot laid out, just a little tiny field over here. It looks like we've got a golem that's hanging out as well. I think I would have preferred if he was in there with them, but this is fine too. He can be out here. There's no problem with that. Out in front of the house, I've been working on these paths as well, and they lead up and over here. We've got a potato field up top, and a carrot field down here in the bottom. We have a little bit of a path that kind of leads to both so that our farmers, if they could leave that area, they would technically come over here and start working on these little areas. And all I've really done here, just for some decoration, is add some coarse dirt, some fences, some lanterns, and some of these firefly bushes just to kind of blend it into the environment a little bit more. It's definitely starting to feel a lot more cohesive in these areas, but I still have a few blank spots that are down here that need to be filled in as well. So today, now that I am finally starting to feel a little bit better, I'm going to be working down here to try to work on these garden areas that I wanted to put in. And I've started a little bit of this. I put a little bit of a path in here because I want to put some kind of maybe seating or something over here that kind of overlooks the lake in this area. To get us started with this project, I went ahead and I got a few things done. So the first thing that I did was I went ahead and added some moss and some grass back in so that it looks a little bit more full and overgrown over here. I also went ahead and added a few fence posts to the entrance here. That way it kind of guides you along the path a little bit better rather than you just running willy-nilly through here. And then the last thing that I did was I went ahead and I added a few piles of leaves up against this rock wall so that it blends in with the ground a little bit better over here. Next thing I want to do, I think, is go ahead and start adding in some of the plants that we're going to want to have in this new area. I'm going to start off with some firefly bushes and some regular bushes just to add a little bit of something here that's not just grass. We are finally on to the world of golden carrots. I have placed some of these firefly bushes in. I kept these kind of near the edges, and then I went ahead and added some bushes in. Some of the bush placements might change as I'm working on things. And now I have these little warped roots, and I was considering adding these in kind of specifically where I'm going to be planting flowers, I think. Not just in open fields or anything like that, but to add a little bit of extra color where I'm going to be planting patches of flowers, I think. I might hold off on putting them down specifically until I know where the flowers are going to be, but I think they'll be like a nice little addition of color that still kind of blends in a little bit with the green. So I guess the first step here is going to be kind of deciding where I want my flower patches to be, and so I'm just going to kind of mark some areas with these dandelions, I think. I'm thinking I'm going to want this kind of area here to be pretty flowery. I think that would look nice and kind of, it's like a nice little area right when you come in from the entrance. So I'm thinking this area here, probably. And then I'm kind of thinking over here across the path, there might be a good spot here for some flowers to be here. I'm not sure I want to bring too many flowers this way. Maybe a few, like a very tiny patch right here. And then I think we might leave this a little less flowery over here. So our flower patches is starting right here, kind of going across and then over here. I think that might be kind of a good spot for all of our flowers. I don't want there to be too many of them because then I kind of feel like it'll be really overgrown looking. So I think just that will do. And I am going to be using a lot of the flowers that we kind of got while we were doing our terraforming and everything like that, because I do actually like these flowers, even though they're quite simple and they're like singular, they're not too bad. I also have some roses, and I was thinking if I'm going to add these, they might just go near the wall. I don't think I want them kind of just like out in the open, because I think they're too big and they're a little bit too overpowering. But we might try just a few kind of back there, just to kind of add a little bit of color back there. And then I think the thing I mainly want to focus on is these smaller ones, because I really like these, and I think these are really good ground coverage. I would kind of love if we got more colors of these in the future, because right now we only have the yellow and the pink. And I very highly favor the yellow ones. I really, really love the yellow ones. The pink ones aren't necessarily bad. They're just not particularly my favorite color. but I am going to add them in here because I do think that they're cute. I think our chaotic little gardens are ready now. Now, I know that normally people do very specific and strategically placed everything, but I kind of wanted something a lot more colorful and bright for our area because we have this kind of colorful theme with this village where all of the roofs are different and it kind of brings in a lot of different colors throughout the village. So I thought starting this area off with a variety of colors and patches here would kind of, set the mood for what the village is like. I think there's maybe even a few more colors that I could have placed in here, but I don't have a lot of other flowers. I think maybe alliums would have been really good in here, but I think I only have 3 alliums. We'll need to find a flower forest in the future, and maybe I'll need to figure out how to set up some flower farms so we can actually get a good stock of some of those, because right now I just don't have it. While I was working on these, I was kind of thinking of what else needs to be added here. I'm thinking maybe some kind of a decorative street sign right around here would be good to kind of tell you, this is the area that's going to lead you back over to the fish docks, which will be over there where those purple wool blocks are eventually. And then it might tell you that the rest of the path leads to the main city, stuff like that. I just think that maybe signposts might be useful all around town, and we can go ahead and get started by placing one here. I also think that maybe a few more street lights or little lantern posts might be good. I have a few of them over here that I had started placing, and I haven't placed any more yet because I wasn't exactly 100% sure where the path would be, but I think adding a few more of those in starting now would be really good and would kind of give me a foothold for where I might want to place them later because they'll eventually need to continue up on the path and everything else like that. I've got a bunch more details added in. So now we have some light posts scattered around, and we also have some signposts. So this is telling us we can go to the town square if we follow it this way, and that's telling us we can go to the fish docks if we follow it this way. And of course, I added a few lamp posts to head us that direction, because it won't be too long before we get over there. And I've added a few more light posts along the way, including one that leads over to this nice picnic spot. I think eventually I'm going to want to add some more detail over here, but I'm going to have to think about exactly what I want to add over here. I'm not quite sure at the moment, and that might still be because I have a little bit of brain fog from being sick still, so I'm just kind of having a difficult time thinking about what I want to do and what I want to add right now. But we'll come back to it. We will add some more stuff here eventually. And then over here, I went ahead and I also added another signpost just to kind of get us started. This one tells us that you can get to the Fletchers and the Masons if you follow this path. And this one tells us you can get to the town square if you continue upward. And we haven't built the Masons yet. The Mason is going to be way out over here where that purple block is. So we have some progress to be making in this direction as well. But I figured I might as well add it to the sign so we know which direction we need to go for that anyways. And we'll want to add more of these little posts everywhere so that we can kind of have an easier time getting around. And, if anybody were to ever visit, they know where they need to go as well. I think we made some really good progress in this episode. There was a few more things that I wanted to get done, but unfortunately, I just got so incredibly sick that I think I'm going to need to hold off on some of those things until I'm feeling a little bit better. I still have quite the cough and quite the chest congestion going on right now, and so I still think I need to finish resting and get fully through this cold so that I can be back to full health and really start being able to use my brain to its full capacity. At the very least, though, we got our farmers set up, so now we have these golden carrots, and that should mean that I don't have to go running around killing all of the wildlife in the vicinity as I try to get enough food to last us for a little while. Now we have a decent stockpile, and we don't have to hurt anything to get it, and so I'm quite happy with that. And I'm happy with the way this little build came out and the way that everything is shaping up. I think over here, Our village is really starting to look like one cohesive build. And so I can't wait to start bringing that up here because up here, it still needs a lot of work. As you can see, we have this like town center here, and there's nothing here except for a cat and a wool block. So I think once we start making some progress on some of these, this is really going to start to look, like one village, and I'm going to be a lot happier with it then. If you made it to the end of this episode, I really appreciate you coming along on this journey with me. Hopefully, there won't be such a large gap between episodes again. I just really needed to take the time to rest because I was very, very ill. But hopefully, I will be recovered by the next time I make a Minecraft episode, so it won't take so long. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you again.